I was at a flea market, just kind of wandering around, looking at the different items for sale. It was the weekend, and it was really busy. There were vendors in each of the little booths. 1,000 different types of things were for sale. Musical instruments, jewelry, electronics, everything secondhand. I went to an electronics booth. I was thinking about getting a new stereo for my car. There was an Indian man working the booth. I asked him about the stereo, but he wanted too much for it. Then he showed me some bootleg DVDs, but I told him I knew how to download movies too. He laughed and said, "Okay, for you, my friend, I have something really nice." He opened a safe and took out an iPhone. "This is the new iPhone 6S, he said. "I want to sell it to you. Good price." I asked, "It's probably stolen, isn't it?" "No thanks." And I walked away. It was just a few minutes later that I dropped my phone. The screen shattered when it struck the concrete. I couldn't afford a new phone, so what options did I have? I went back to the electronics booth. "I knew that you would be back, my friend." "Yeah, well, I just happened to drop my phone, so maybe I will take you up on that." As you say, as you say. He got out the phone, and he gave it to me. I paid him $100, and considering that it was probably stolen, that might have been too much anyway. I replaced the SIM card and got it activated, downloaded some apps and messed around on it. It was really a huge upgrade from my old iPhone 4. I went back to my parents' house. I told them about my new phone. My dad said it was probably stolen and I could get in a lot of trouble. He told me I should just throw it away, and I could use an old flip phone until I saved up money for a new one. He took my phone and threw it in the garbage can. But I immediately pulled it back out. I said, if it's stolen, just throwing it away doesn't do any good. That night something weird happened to me. It was 4 a.m., and I was woken up by the sound of an incoming text. Who could be texting me at 4 in the morning, I wondered. I picked up my phone from the nightstand. My brain's still foggy from sleep. I read the text. It said, "You have 3 wishes." I didn't recognize the number or even the area code. I figured it was a prank, but just for fun, I texted back, $1 million. I had school the next day, and while I was at school, I got some terrible news. My dad was dead. He worked in a lumber mill, around some very dangerous equipment. His shirt had gotten caught, and he was sucked into one of the machines. It must have been a gruesome death. The death of a parent is the hardest thing a person should ever have to go through. I was sitting in class. I calmly asked for the restroom pass. I went out into the hallway, and then I walked out the front door of the school. No one noticed. No one chased after me or tried to stop me. I just walked home. It was a long walk, but I didn't care. All I could think about was that I would never see my dad again. I eventually made it home. My mother was there, and we grieved together. The funeral was a few days later. It was a closed casket, because the body was so badly mangled. 10 days after the funeral, we got a check in the mail. Dad's life insurance. $1 million. I cried out loud when I saw the check. No, no! I don't want it. I want my dad back. There was no way it couldn't be. But I was still in the denial phase of my grief. So I took out my phone, and I texted the number back. I said, "I wish my dad wasn't dead." My mother cooked dinner that night. We sat quietly at the dinner table and ate the meal. Just as we were finishing up, there was a knock at the door. My mother said, "I'll do the dishes. Could you please get the door?" I went and opened the door. I let out a gasp. I saw my father standing there, but he was a monster, a zombie. What skin was left clung to his bones like curtains of meat. His right arm had been torn off at the shoulder. He was dripping blood everywhere. "Who is it at the door?" my mother called. My dad tried to speak, but it only made an indecipherable gurgling sound, and blood poured out of his mouth. I knew what I had to do. I had one wish left, and I had to make it count, but how should the message be phrased? What should I wish for to make all of this stop? And then I realized. I typed the message in and pressed send.